Now, for the past year or so, our attendance has been very wavering, it's been uneven, and at times it's been low. Now, I do understand that the basis of this club was mostly at the time Verizon employee personnel, and a lot has happened. We had a strike that went on and on and on, and attendance got low from that. And then also, there has been some rifts involved, and people get discouraged and they don't like to join and participate in ongoing activities in an organization if they feel that they're going to leave it or that everybody else around them is going to leave it. So attendance and the club's future here is kind of an unknown, and it has been for a little while. We're going to celebrate our 30th anniversary, 30 years here. I would like to see another 30 years out of this, not personally, but continue on. I would like to make this club a viable entity for the foreseeable future. I think there's opportunity in that. We all get something out of this club, and we benefit greatly from it. So, what do we do about it? We can do public relations. One of the issues, I think, is not a whole lot of people know about this. Another thing we can do is our behavior here and behavior, what I mean is that we act responsibly, we participate in the direction, we do the speeches, we do the leadership activities, and we all participate in them. We encourage each other, not just through the evaluations. I mean, that criticism, we do good evaluations here, but we also need to encourage each other, the mentorship sorts of activities. Hey, Tom, Dick, or Harry, I haven't heard you speak for a while, you know, why don't we have you do a speech next week? Or, Joe, you haven't had a club officer role yet, but you participate regularly. Would you like to take on an officer role? It's not a whole lot of work, and you get CL credits for it. Continuing support. Keep coming to the meetings. Keep doing this, not just, when I get around to it, when I get a chance. I do understand the problem of workload. Believe me, I understand the problem of workload. Participation, I think, is very important. So I would like to open up to suggestions and questions and answers on how we can do these things: public relations, behavior, encouragement, continuing support, participation. Things like what we did with the Lunch and Learn. We had to actually go out and volunteer for that. Of course, they were desperate for volunteers and immediately grabbed us up. But we can go out and look for opportunities like that. We can do the crowd around. Ramesh has a crowd around site, which I can't find. I looked for it this morning, but not specifically for Telcom Toastmasters. It's like Mary at Tulsa. Yes. So with that, folks, we need to get moving. Keep this club active. Let me open it up for questions and answers and suggestions.
I have a question. So, as a club, to be successful, you're asking everybody to do something, to take part in some way, especially in the case of an officer role, like you mentioned, public relations. People need to be incentivized normally to do something. How can we incentivize our officers, at least, if not all the members, into not necessarily going the extra mile, but putting it that way, to say to go the extra mile, to really take ownership in their position or in their club?
Excellent question. I have two incentives that we get out of this club listed. One is it develops our speech behavior better, which is a self-improvement sort of device, and also improves our leadership skills, which can be a career-building exercise. Now, the other things like the ribbons and the applause at the end of the speech, is about all we have. We don't have a whole lot of other incentives for people to attend. So do we emphasize those two things? Or do we come up with something new and different and unique?
I have a suggestion for something that's new and unique and different. So here's the scoop. I'm willing to bet everybody has a LinkedIn profile. Or if they don't, they should, right? So here's an interesting question. Volunteer for an officer position, serve your 6 months, and at the end of the 6 months, the president of the club will go out and give you an endorsement on LinkedIn. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a Toastmasters endorsement, right? It doesn't have to, you served in the role of treasurer for 6 months and did a good, it doesn't necessarily have to do that. It can just be it can be a generic endorsement. It doesn't even really quite matter what it is. Hey, wow, I enjoyed working with you. I thought that you were a very clear communicator. I think that you helped the team do, whatever the story, so it'll look good in LinkedIn and stuff like that. But serve your role, do a good job, and at the end of 6 months, you'll have and by the way, that's something that'll stay with you forever, right? Beyond the 6 months that you serve, that'll be just another something you can, check off, and obviously it makes you look better to the outside world and all that sort of good stuff like that. But it seems like that's something that could pretty easily be done. It's an onus on the president to actually remember and do and stuff like that. But it seems like, all of a sudden that role would become a little bit more, that's not huge. Yeah, it's not a huge thing by any stretch of the imagination, but we're all like, yeah, there's probably something I should, I don't really have very many recommendations. That's probably something I should do, right?
And it's better than a certificate, just because only the people who are physically near you see the certificate.
Right.
LinkedIn, anybody can see it.
Exactly. Forever and ever, right?
And LinkedIn is also coming back as kind of a career building site. It kind of has ebbs and flows that way, but LinkedIn is a good...
It's what recruiters use. So if and when that becomes an important part of your life, that you go looking for a next opportunity and stuff like that, it can only help to have more recommendations, right? Something
I like
to
it.
It's a good suggestion.
I got a couple myself. One is I would like to suggest that we make this a little bit more concrete. We talk about declining attendance and variable attendance and so forth. Let's make data out of it. Let's throw a chart up on the display there at the beginning of the meeting, showing what our last 4 weeks' attendance was, so that it's there in more concrete terms. We can see the trend line. It's something that we can react to and see whether we're doing well or doing poorly.
Good point there, and I was actually thinking of being a little bit more proactive on that and requiring members to tell me why, no, not me, but the club, why they're not going to attend next week. See, if you obligate somebody to say, well, I can't be there because I'm going to be home feeding the dog, they might think twice about it. Oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll show up.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Unfortunately, I get you. In my personal case, that will not work because the reason I'm usually not here is because my boss has a habit of scheduling meetings over this time slot, usually with about 90 minutes notice.
Understand.
Me too.
The other suggestion is possibly upping the social aspect of the club. We meet here. We do our Toastmasters thing. We don't see each other again until next week.
Exactly.
What if every 4 or 6 weeks we got the club together for a social? Started building more of the personal relationships and the friendships as well as just the Toastmaster.
Yeah, and I like the idea that Joel had with the potluck we did for Thanksgiving. I think we should maybe do that once a quarter, once every couple months. I think that would help us, take it a little more casually. We could hang out together rather than having a rigid formal meeting. We'll have one speaker. We'll have a little potluck. Do more table topics or something. Just a little more fun-centric meeting. That's my suggestion.
I think that's good, but I was actually referring to something not in our schedule.
No, I totally agree. I mean, we did one after one activity
At gas bars.
at Gasper's a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I don't remember how long ago that was.
So I think these guys have great ideas and stuff. Let me throw one more out for you. Provide food. We come, we meet, we leave, and some people have lunch, some people don't, and stuff like that. How cool would it be if you came and there was donuts? right? I mean, I am part of other organizations that provide food for their meetings, and you will have people show up because there's food, right? I'm not saying that this is a good idea by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to float it out there and say, if you have food, people will show up. And I say donuts because donuts is like a universal food, right?
Yeah.
Hell, show up with chocolate and everybody will freaking show. but just
Free
as,
food, yeah.
basically, come to
Vegetarian,
Toastmasters,
you can eat
and there
both.
will be free food for you to eat during the course of the meeting, and you'd be surprised at how crowded the room could get actually fairly quickly. So just something to kick around.
To be honest with you, I think we have enough money in the budget to do something like a sandwich platter,
That'll work.
which would be even
And
better.
I have no problems with that. Now, I would like to point out something to you, just very casually here, and especially here in Verizon, you do need to be careful about some people can eat some things and some people can't eat other things. Also, some people don't like sandwiches and stuff. So you have a huge problem. I would say donuts and chocolate are universal, right? And by the way, anything you can do that's universal, fantastic, and maybe chips for that matter. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm very sensitive to the fact that sometimes it's like, oh, those are ham sandwiches? Okay, that's not going to fly. You know what I mean? Type of deal stuff. So it's cool. It's whatever. It's just whatever you need to do. You just need to casually consider who your target audience is and figure out whether or not they can.
I'll take one more comment and then we'll conclude this briefing. Right?
You guys know this is my first time trying to speak in public, and I'm a novice at this. I have all this stuff inside to get out, and I sometimes have trouble finding a topic to talk about. And I really struggle with that. What am I going to talk about? Or, how am I going to say it? Things like that, And you guys know about my past and, my alcoholism and my accident and everything I've gone through and stuff. But I want to learn how to talk more about general things than about myself. I'm an expert on me.
As you should be.
But I want to grow in other areas and aspects like that,
And that's a good point to bring up to people who are searching for topics to speak on, that we can throw out ideas for other people to talk about, their hobbies, their feelings about things. It's kind of dangerous these days to talk about politics. I actually know 2 incidents this past week where law enforcement had to be called into otherwise respectable people.
Do you answer the door when they come, Arnie, or is it somebody else who's actually? When you say 2 incidents,
With that, let me conclude this. I appreciate the cacophony that came from you all on the ideas on this, but we will continue this in the future.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.